Hi, so today we're trying to figure out how to do a placement SAE on the AET website. This is what your page should look like once you've logged into your account. Your name should be up in this top corner. If you cannot log in or if this is not your name, please reach out to the advisor that you have in your chapter to be able to get the right login information. Once you are able to get in, what you're going to do is go under the Journal feature and go to Experience Manager. Any way that you want to get to your SAE tracking is going to be through this icon right here. So once I've clicked it, you're going to see that we get to a new page, but there is no SAE present, and so we are going to create one. I'm going to hit Add New at the top, and it's going to pull up a new page for me. Now, there are multiple different types of placements, and I'll run through a couple of them as we go. Let's start with the most familiar one for most ag programs, is you are working for your parents for their farm. So I'm going to put down my parents' farm, and I am going to stay as an individual because I'm not working with someone in the school or I'm not volunteering. I need to be able to track my experience. This is through entering hours worked, entering financials or paychecks, items like that. And so what the AET allows you to do is pick a specific category for tracking experience, so it only gives you the features that you need, which are seen over here. Since I am doing a placement example with you all, I'm going to go to the job row, and I can either choose to be paid or unpaid. Because unpaid will only allow me to do journal entries, and paid would allow me to do paycheck and journal, I will only be showing you how to do a paid one. Next, I need to say where my experience category lies. So here I get to choose an area of agriculture or a non-ag experience or foundational to be able to say how I am learning these different skills. So if I were working in an agribusiness systems, then perhaps I am working as providing a sale or service for a person. So maybe I'm working at Tractor Supply or Farm and Fleet. Maybe I am doing environmental service systems where I am managing a game trail or I am working at a gun range. Each of these areas is best described when you go to either your advisor, who's able to best explain them, or if you are the advisor, you can always use national FFA or your state standards to identify which of these categories your student's employment would best fall under. For the sake of this example, I will do this as if I was going to be working in SAE with my parents at their farm. So because I am in a plant farm, we are not a livestock farm, I would hit plants. What I'm going to do, because my parents raise multiple types of plants, for corn for grain and soybeans as an oil, I can only pick one in this factor. And so what I'm going to do instead is something that many of your students or yourself will have to do. I'm going to do multiple SAE categories. My first category will stay in plant systems with a grain crop, and so that tells me that this is for tracking everything revolving corn. What I can do is make another plant systems, and this time change it to oil, and I can tell myself, hey, that's your soybean one. If my family did raise livestock, I could also change that under here and go to animal systems and say, maybe we raise sheep. Maybe we're a dairy farm, and have that information down here as well. Any information you need to make sure that you can tell these apart should be what you're typing in these boxes over here. So again, I put corn over here for my grain crop, I put soybean for my oil crop, and I put beef for beef. If you are unsure of what subcategory to pick, your advisor would know, or if the advisor needs help finding it, they can use the proficiency area resource from National FFA. That is the best description of finding out what does and does not qualify for each of these specific areas. If I am all done with this page, I just need to hit the Save button. It auto-populated all three of those different SAEs at one time for me. However, they're all red and there are a lot of X's present. And so that tells me I'm not quite done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these pencils. What this pencil does is it provides me with different items to start the planning process for my SAE. The first thing I need to do is give a description of it. So what is my beef SAE at Healy Farms Incorporated? What I can do is I can copy and paste this information down into this little box down here. and then just fill in the blanks. AET has a lot of great resources for doing that built into their program. If I want to type it on my own, I should still make sure that I'm checking all the boxes that I'm asked for up here. Okay? I should still make sure I'm explaining my interest for this project. When I'm planning this project, when I'm completing it, or if it's going to be ongoing. What my goals are for working here. So am I even wanting to work on the farm when I'm older? Am I hoping to learn about being a better business manager? Am I hoping to just learn more about the growing side and the production? What am I hoping to learn? My project will be evaluated or supervised by my agricultural teachers and industry professional. In my case, because I chose a family farm, I would put down my father's name in that box. For the sake of awards and applications later on in your FFA career, I highly recommend you specifically say who dad is or who mom is when you're doing these types of setups. When I'm done here, I can just go on to the next tab. Time investment. Okay, so I'm looking at how many hours am I working a week, what common activities I'm spent doing during that time. Since I said I was getting paid, I have a spot to say I'm getting blank payment for my time, which varies from blank to blank hours, or per week, or per month. They do also give you that option for not getting paid. Lastly, my project time relates to my career plan, which is to blank. Okay, so maybe I don't know my career plan, so I could say my project time relates to my career plan, which is to help me figure out what I do and do not enjoy doing at this time. Saying at this time gives the inclination to whoever's looking at your SAE to understand that you don't know yet, but you're trying to figure it out. And that's the important part to note. This third tab is a little bit different. So this is learning objectives or skills. Okay, so these are some major experiences you're planning to get done inside of this job. A minimum of 3 is required. Okay, but I highly recommend that you take the time to pick all that apply. So again, this is for my beef work on Healy Farms. And so what I'm going to do is notice that it already says animal systems. And that's because when I made this SAE, it was under animal systems. So all I need to do is scroll down and hit add for any of these skills that I think I'm going to learn working on the farm. So while working for my parents, am I going to analyze the nutritional needs of animals? Well, because I have to be able to feed these livestock, I'm most certainly going to learn that skill. So I'm going to hit add. Okay? Am I going to comply with government regulations and safety standards for facilities used in animal production? Well, if I'm a feedlot, then I certainly need to make sure that my facilities are up to date and that I'm able to understand those regulations that I'm supposed to be kept to. Okay, so I can hit add there. Maybe I'm reading something that says to design programs. I might not be the one designing them, and so I need to know that maybe this isn't a major one for me, but I might do it eventually. Okay, because again, we are looking for some major skills that fit into our program. I do have the option though to look into these other ones and figure them out. So one thing that all students are going to be able to do is go to this Career Ready Practices skill set and identify skills that relate to being a good and responsible employee. No matter your SAE area, you should be able to get at least one skill from here. You should be able to do plenty more, but at least one. Okay? So maybe my biggest thing with working with the livestock is that I need to be a good role model of responsibility. And so that's going to be pretty important to me, so I'm going to hit add. When I'm ready to go back, I hit the save and back to SAE plan. What this did is it took those 3 standards that I picked, put them off to the side here, and gave me these planned activities boxes. So what the program wants me to do is say, how am I going to do this? How am I going to learn this skill in my SAE? And I know that we learn a lot of things in ag class, and that is a really strong thing, but this program is only focusing about your SAE right now. Okay, we are in your SAE development stage. Any advisor does not want to hear that you are saying, oh, in class I plan to do this. If you're talking about raising beef on your family's farm, your class will not have anything to do with that. So how are you going to learn how to analyze the nutritional needs of animals while working for Healy Farms, Inc. with their beef operation? That is what goes into this box right here. And you will need to do that for each box that you have. All right, so the very last page here is for e-signatures. E-signatures, you're going to get a page that looks like this. And again, I'm on the demo account, so I don't have all of the features necessarily. But the student is going to type their name here and then be able to submit their signature. The teacher will have to go in and submit their own signature as well. And then whichever adult is in charge of supervising that employee will go down here as well. So we got a parent, employer or supervisor, teacher, and student. What these signatures mean is that you understand that, yes, I am the employer for the student, and I will be the one responsible for any employee evaluations that happen. The parent is saying, yes, I understand that my student is participating in this and that they are going to be recording this information. The teacher says, yes, I have reviewed the student's project plan and verifies that it exhibits comprehensive planning. Okay, so again, that's being very clear and deliberate about what you're saying in these tabs up here. Not just putting in random things, not just saying like, I might do this or I don't know, being specific and clear. Then lastly, the student's agreement that they are doing this and this is all true. Okay? If you're able to submit signatures at this time, that is a great time to request them by using their email addresses or putting in your own. So if you had gotten signatures, this would now be a green check mark and your box would be green as well. This clipboard would still have an X and so would this icon over here. But those are to worry about at the end of the calendar year. What I can do once I have my SAEs is I can start figuring out putting in different information about them. So maybe, hey, I've already been working for my parents over the summer. I just came into egg class this fall, had to make this for my egg class, and now I need to log all those hours from June to August. So what I can do is go to Finances, and I'm going to say a new financial entry. Okay, and I have the option of a bunch of different things here, but again, this is strictly a placement, and I was being paid. So I can just look at these parentheses here and see, look for placement. Nope. Hey, we got placement right there, and it is a paycheck. That is how I'm being paid. So all I have to do is have my SAEs on the side, and because they're all for the same business, they automatically all got selected. And they automatically all got an equal percentage of the gross pay. I put in the date that is for that paycheck. So maybe this is for June. And I got it at the last Friday of the month. My total gross money earned that month maybe was $500. Okay, for taxes, what did I lose? I don't know, probably $50. If I had an actual paycheck, I could put in real things here. Any expenses, well, if you broke something, or if your parents charged you something because you didn't do something right, or maybe it's a restaurant and you ate the food and you got that taken out of your paycheck, that's what this box is for, okay? But I didn't do any of that in this mysterious scenario, so that's going to be a 0. And then my paycheck hours. So let's say I worked 85 hours. So what this did is it said, hey, for each of these SAEs, I made a gross income of $167. Okay? I can save and go back to that page I was on. I can save and enter another paycheck, or I could save and journal time and skills. What I highly recommend is you hit save and journal time and skills. Or not. So maybe it's the demo account. I don't fully understand, but I would go to save and journal time and skills, and I'll show you what that looks like. So how that would look for you guys is this page should pop up next, okay? And it would auto-populate that date that you put in earlier. And so it would auto-populate that date you put in for that paycheck. It would auto-populate for you to do each of your SAEs. And then we get to say what we did with that time. Okay, so in that 1 month of those 85 hours, maybe I spent 32 of those hours I was feeding cattle. I was responsible for mixing rations and transporting it to the herd. Okay, I had to make sure that the feed was spread out for all animals to have access to, and any other information that's relevant. The clearer you are here, the better your future FFA applications will be. Okay, so I understand if this feels like a lot right now to you as a student, but you need to understand that you are doing future you a huge favor. Okay? So now, what you have to do lastly is for these 32 hours, give a skill that you achieved. Okay? And so it's going to auto-populate with my project plan, and these are those 3 that I chose when I developed my SAE. I can still go into any area and select any other one though. So I definitely analyzed the nutritional needs of animals. Okay, but let's see what else I did under animal sciences. Maybe I looked at the rations and worked with my parents to be able to change the rations if necessary. Okay, so I can add that one on too. You can have multiple of them on here. That doesn't matter, but there does need to be at least one. This description should say how you did those things. Okay, so because I added in that analyzing feed rations, maybe I'm going to say I worked with Mr. Healy. Okay, because again, I'm not saying my dad. I'm saying his name, Mr. Healy, to identify new rations for our growing herd. Okay? As an advisor, I'm going to give you a hint here. This word right here should not be in your placement SAE. You work for Mr. Healy, so it is his herd. You don't own the herd, so it is not your herd. So you have no ownership in it. If you are planning to get a star or a proficiency in this area, then you need to make sure you are watching your language with your application. Okay? So in this case, I'm going to change that to say his herd. All right? If I had any pictures of me doing it, I would be sure to add those here. Again, future you would thank you. And then if you were being supervised, say by who. Okay, so was it a teacher? Was it your boss? Was it Mr. Healy? Making sure to note those there. Otherwise, you could have been unsupervised, and that's okay to have too. All right, so then you'd hit the save button, and it would be totaled up as your SAE hours. Okay? I highly recommend that you journal time in your SAE with each paycheck that you do. Okay? So, again, this icon is how we get back to our SAE. To see that big screen that looks like this. Okay, you're going to notice this is white now because I have an entry. If you only record your finances, okay, you are going to have hours and you are going to have pay. However, those hours aren't going to transfer to the journal because you never said what you were doing with that time. So, to make sure that you are doing this properly, please record a paycheck and then record a journal. Okay, and if you need a different way to get to the journal entries than always coming to this page, they have this nice button right here that says journal. And then they have a whole box for add new journal entry and one specifically for your time in your SAE. There are multiple ways to get to the same thing with this website. And so if the way your teacher is showing you isn't exactly the way that I am showing you in this video, just know we're both right. Okay? So, what we did today is we went over how to make a paid placement, how to set your categories, how to know what to pick for your subcategory, and how to make sure it was correct. We went through how to log a paycheck and how to log hours. We went through how to plan and everything needed for that process. All right. So if you need any more help with your placement, I highly recommend you go to your advisor and you two sit down and figure out the best way to make this happen. I wish you all the best. Good luck.